Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Harebrained Games. Today we're going to do my annual Christmas shoutouts. Every year I've gone back and thought about all the different YouTube channels that were really valuable to me in learning about games or discussing games or such matters such as that. Last year, and I did it, and the year before I did it, so I'm going to do it again this year. It was been a different year, so I didn't quite have the exposure that I did to watching a lot of YouTube or channels or whatever, but hey, there were still a few that stood out, so let's talk about them. Now, first off, there's going to be, not to sound like a broken record, but there's going to be every year pretty much the core group of games. You cannot do better than No Enemies Here. How do you miss out on a guy whose enthusiasm, not just for games, but for people in the games and around the games, and enthusiasm, a guy who will show you his house as he's rebuilding it, or go over on some wacky segue that just cracks you up. No Enemies Here has been a friend of the industry, wargaming and the like, for many years, and it continues to be a top-notch resource. Every Friday it's popcorn and No Enemies Here video of the week. So thank you for that as always, Dan. You are inspiring. Every once in a while I get a sight of my good friend Castelli. Now he has a new channel called Are You Serious? But this guy has abided for so many years now, and I love that, again, just like I said last year. Every once in a while you'll be, a few months go by and then suddenly poof, there he is for some fun, wacky, normally these days musical interlude on board gaming. And then you go watch it several times, and then you go off, and it makes your day. So thank you as always for doing that. If you haven't seen this gentleman's latest video parody or musical parody for Rock Hard's 1977, it's a must-watch. So thank you for that. Also, last year I shouted out Jumble and Goff, which was a up-and-coming channel that, again, was just, it was all about the passion of the game, and they took some real deep dives into the history behind some games too this year. So not only was it humorous and tongue-in-cheek, but it was also had some serious vibes. Now, thankfully, one of the guys is going to be a father. There were some complications, and so he noted a couple months ago that he was going to have to take a break. But I am super pleased to continue to applaud fatherhood. It is like no other, and I wish them well and hope that they can come back in 2025 and do some cool stuff again. Finally, up north, there's Meandering Mike, week in, perennial, like an evergreen. He comes through with some cool content. He's playing some cool stuff, very much in the board gaming realm, or wargaming realm, and just keeping things going up there. So I hope you're doing well. It won't be a white Christmas this year, but hey, maybe it'll be a gaming Christmas, or a White Dog Games Christmas. And finally, I want to shout out another great guy who does his own it's a small channel, but it's got some really mighty content, and that's Graham's dad, who does The Name of the Game. He's very prolific and very good at explaining games, and puts a lot of effort into games that are older, like older war games, ones that aren't just the quickest ones off the shelf. For example, he did a really good lengthy playthrough of Panzer Blitz, and so I've been watching that in my spare time on my treadmill, and he just did one of like Banana Maw or something. He didn't recommend the game for its quality, but it is pretty humorous. But if you have a chance, check him out, and thanks to him for just always keeping in touch with me in this hard year. And those are the perennials. Now we're going to get into new channels that I've looked at this year. Not all of them are wargaming, but actually, yeah, or any of them really truly wargaming. Anyway, I want to give a shout out to Board Game Buzz. Big time enthusiasm from a nice lady who every once in a while you'll see her kids running back and forth, whatever, but really puts a lot of effort and energy. Very eloquent presentation, and that's just come to the forefront on my radar. And I don't know how I ended up watching that from some other thing, video or whatever. But Board Game Buzz is one that if you're into sort of lighter fare, check her out. She's fantastic. She's authentically enthusiastic. We'll put it that way. I never ever want to disparage other groups putting their efforts in, but sometimes I feel like there's a I'm not going to say artificial or fabricated. Well, I just did. But just sometimes there's this enthusiasm like, hey, let's hype it up. And I don't need that. I just want someone to go like, hey, I really like this. This is why. And it just resonates with me. So thank you for that. And in the same realm, there's a plucky young lady, board gaming with Conacat, who has done just an amazing job this year of being so enthusiastic. She strikes me as a low budget, well, not high production value. I'm low budget. Other people are less high production value. Who's just really got an infectious just presence for showing off the game. So if you get a chance to check her channel out, not too many subscribers, but she seems to be just doing it for the fun of it, that's the purity I enjoy. Then we have a really, really excellent resource in a different vein, which is Rules Challenge. And I mentioned this in a Week in Games before, but if you haven't seen Rules Challenge, it does an amazing job of teaching you game situations through quizzing. So it says, here's a situation. I'm going to run you through these 7 steps of this game. Say, Ark Nova, Pirates of Maracaibo, Carnegie, whatever, and then you tell me, did I do everything right or wrong? And it's an inverted learning approach that really resonates with me, because I'm like, okay, I focus better. Like, okay, I don't think that was the right movement. And then he'll go back and he'll replay that move, and he'll replay it in such a fashion that you can go, oh, this was right. Everything went right. And what he catches is a lot of fringe examples where you'll get a lot of the road examples in a rule book, but one always gets sort of those fringe conditions where if I stack all these inputs into the game, I move here, I have this option, I get this bonus, I take one of these 2 bonuses, which triggers that bonus, which moves me along here. Like some of those things, he puts you in those situations and says, how well will you do at deciding whether I'm full of baloney or whether this is a valid move. And so really huge props to him. And finally, I have a guilty pleasure that's not board gaming related, but for some reason I really like. There's a channel called 8-Minute Masterpieces that's just come along that that recently, and I'm pretty sure it's just it probably is just AI or an auto-generated or whoever, but for some reason I really like going back to all these really old classic books and having them give me an 8-minute summary. The pictures are stupid, like, ooh, here's an AI picture of War of the Worlds, like whatever. But for some reason, I've really enjoyed that as kind of a guilty pleasure this year, because there's so many books I've gone back and like, I should refresh my memory with this book or that book. I'm like, I'll just get the 8-minute masterpiece, and it's done well. I mean, I don't agree with some of the conclusions that the AI makes on it, but I don't have to. Basically, it's like, okay, remember this? Lord of the Flies. Oh, now I remember it. So anyway, and finally, as always, the biggest shout out of all, the creme de la creme, is the Harebrained Games community. This has been, as those of you know, a very, very difficult year. Very difficult. I would not trade. Just a rough year. And so knowing and having people, sometimes they'll just check in with me on the comments. Sometimes they'll just say a kind word on a review or whatever. Sometimes it's just, let's talk about the game or what your thoughts are, how it's going. I highly doubt that many YouTube channels have the kind of conversational, congenial atmosphere that I have been blessed with because of so many really wonderful people across the globe. And so I want to thank you, as I always have, at times here, but I want to just, again, establish and cement in concrete terms my gratitude for all of you who've kept with me and in my low-budget videos for the year. So who knows what next year brings? There are going to be some changes. The landscape here is going to change a little bit. I'll explain more about that next year. But in the meantime, Merry Christmas, God bless, and see you next time on Harebrained Games.